Hey, this is Buck Dharma of Blue Oyster Cult, and you're listening to the Sports Circus.
Welcome to the Sports Circus. I'm your ringmaster Sal, live from Las Vegas in the AMP TV studio, AAMP Television. Today's show is brought to you by UppercutChops.com. Check out their tasty selection of all-natural, dry-aged USDA Prime Angus and Wagyu steaks and chops. Wait till you taste their best-in-class New York steaks, the filet mignon, and of course the king of all, those gigantic cowboy cut and tomahawk cut ribeyes. Hell, wait till you have those half-pound Wagyu burgers. Best I've ever had, probably be the best you ever have as well. Check them out at UppercutChops.com. That's UppercutChops.com. Or give them a call to find out what's for dinner. 714-948-0100. 714-948-0100. Again, 714-948-0100 for UppercutChops.com. All right, a big welcome into everybody listening in on our CBS, NBC, and Fox Sports affiliates and independents from coast to coast. Everybody watching on Cox, Comcast, Spectrum, Frontier, Oceanic, Time Warner, Spectrum, Wild Charter, and independent cable affiliates in select markets. Thanks for joining us there, as well as Hotel TV where applicable, and all streamers, plus on Chicago Food Favorites. Check out that group, folks, on Facebook. Chicago Food Favorites on Facebook. Talk about your favorite foods, your favorite restaurants, favorite recipes. Make some friends, have some fun. Chicago Food Favorites on Facebook. And by the way, our friends over at Vacation Buddies are giving away a couple of nights right here in Las Vegas, or in Orlando, Florida, or in Branson, Missouri, if you can answer this simple trivia question. If so, call the number right after the question and pick up your 2 free nights in Las Vegas, Orlando, or Branson, Missouri. Here's the question. Which of these 3 is the tallest structure in Las Vegas? Is it A, the Stratosphere Tower at the Strat, B, the Eiffel Tower at the Paris Hotel and Casino, or C, the Fontainebleau Hotel in Las Vegas? If you know the answer, call 888-576-5777, 888-576-5777. Again, Vacation Buddies is not affiliated with this station, but they want to give you a couple of nights in Las Vegas, Orlando, Florida, or in Branson, Missouri. If you know the answer, call 888-576-5777. Call now. All right, it is that time of year, folks, when we have a lot of football going on, and we've had football going on for a while now, but we have football that actually counts, and we're going to jump right into it in the NFL Week 16. That's right. We only have 3 games left of the season at this point, and so the bigger question is, what's going to happen? Look, among the top matchups in Week 16, of course, we already had the Rams and Seahawks, and that was a wild one in overtime. Seattle goes for 2, and they complete the 2-point conversion in overtime to take over the tiebreaker over the Rams and the number 1 slot temporarily in the NFC. And, of course, other big games are Green Bay and Chicago, and, of course, the Patriots and the Ravens. So we have some odds here, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to run over these real quick because these are the ones that are from fabulous Las Vegas, and I'm going to mention the odds from MGM Resorts International, from Caesars, and from Hard Rock. So the first game that we're going to get into real quick is Washington is hosting Philadelphia. Philadelphia opens up -1.5, and the line is up to -7. That's across the board. All the money is going on Philadelphia at this point. And you say, well, why would all the money be going on Philadelphia? Well, I mean, look, let's face it, folks. I mean, Philadelphia is certainly the best team in the NFC East. I don't think anybody's going to dispute that whatsoever. And when we look at the divisions, we say, all right, what else is at stake for, I guess, the teams that are playing? And really, that's what you sort of have to ask yourself. And so looking at the NFC East right now, well, it's obviously Philadelphia and then basically everybody else. The Cowboys are 6-7-1. They're essentially out of it. Then Washington 4-10, Giants 2-12. Philadelphia does not need to win the game. This is the setup for the proverbial boat race. Now think about this. The Eagles already have 5 losses. Now since they have 5 losses, the best they could do is 12-5. Well, guess what? It occurs to me that the Seattle Seahawks already have 12 wins. That's right. So what are the Eagles really playing for at this point? Because you have one team with a bye, and that's the team with the best record in the conference. And right now it's going to be, well, as it stands, the Seattle, the Rams are 11-4, and the Bears are 10-4. They need a win over Green Bay to keep pace. But back to the Eagles. The Eagles don't have a whole hell of a lot to play for at this point. So you ask yourself, all the money is going on Philadelphia. And I mean all the money. So they are a touchdown favorite right now. They opened up 1.5. So if you got it early when you're supposed to get it, you would have got it at less than a field goal. But now you're laying a touchdown. So the bigger question is, does Washington keep it close? They're without Jaden Daniel, if I'm not mistaken. And so this is Marcus Mariota's Washington Commanders right now. I think Daniel's already been shut down for the balance of the season, if I'm not mistaken. So that said, is this the proverbial Vegas fix? Everything and anything points at the Eagles to win on the road. I don't think they're going to cover. I'll give you this one for free. This one screams fix. This one screams Washington might even win the game. And so, frankly, I don't see how you don't take the 7 at pick your favorite casino or online venue. Hell, there are other bets that you can make for all you bettors out there. This is Sal the bookmaker talking instead of Ringmaster Sal. Think about this, folks. If you know the betting game, if you understand how the flat bets work, how the parlays work, how the teasers work, this is one of those games that technically you could probably tease both ways with anywhere from 6.5 to 7 points. Now, if that's it, if you get a 7-point tease, meaning you're adding 7 points to your side, Washington goes up to plus 14. And if you had bet the Eagles, well, guess what? It turns into a picket. So essentially, all you got to do is win the game. That's why it screams Washington at home. Think about that one, folks. All right, moving on to the next game. This game means a lot. It's the Bears hosting Green Bay. And Green Bay won a couple of weeks ago. Think about this. The division is at stake. Unlike the NFC East, right now the division is at stake in the NFC North. So the Bears hold a half-game lead over Green Bay, but if Green Bay wins, not only do they pull a half a game ahead because they do have a tie, and they'll have the tiebreaker because they would have won both games this season against their rival. So the Bears need to win this one to keep this in a just division, then conference tiebreaker scenario. And that's really how you have to look at this. And so as we look at the Bears and Packers, we say, well, if the Bears get themselves a win, this is going to be very, very tough sledding for Detroit to come out of nowhere. Yes, they are a couple of games off the pace right now. So the Bears are 10-4, Green Bay 9-4-1, Detroit 8-6. Now Detroit has their final game at Chicago. So if the Bears win this one, the Lions have to keep pace because, let's face it, they have to make sure that they enter at least the final game if there is a possibility. Because remember, Detroit beat the Bears early on in the season. So if they win both games against the Bears, well, that would be the last week of the season, and they end up tied, then Detroit would they would probably end up winning the NFC North at that point. So this is a really important game for Chicago and Green Bay right now. And when we look at the line, look, this line opened up Green Bay minus 1.5 on the road, which to me makes no sense. You're out. Micah Parsons will not be playing. Christian Watson likely will not be playing either. So you're going to be thin in the receiving side. You're going to be thin in the linebacker side and the pass rush side, I should say. And so what happens now with Green Bay? Well, I'll tell you what. For Green Bay to be favored 1.5 points, That means on a neutral field, the odds makers are saying Green Bay is 4.5 better than the Bears, which makes no sense to me. So they're playing in Chicago. Weather is not a factor. Green Bay seems to play pretty well in Chicago. However, the Bears are playing very well generally against Green Bay in the last handful of games, and they played well enough to win in the last game. So if you have the Bears, let's face it, they opened up at plus 1.5, and now the Bears are minus 1.5. There's a 3-point swing, right? So you have 1.5 plus, and then you add 3, and now you're minus 1.5. So now the odds maker, that was what I gave you earlier with that 4.5. That's what the odds makers were saying. But the money has went on the Bears at home. So now the Bears essentially got to win by a couple of points to win this game. Now that line is a little bit more in tune with what I'm thinking. So ultimately, it looks like I think the Bears are going to win this one. Frankly, I don't see how they don't win the game. You got a Green Bay team that's a little bit shorthanded, and I think it goes advantage Chicago, plus you've got the home team. But this is a dire game for both teams, and I guess we'll see what happens here. Tell you what, folks, when we come back from the break, we're going to jump into a game over in the AFC East. Why? We sort of have to. That's why. All right, back here in a few minutes on the Sports Circus. Don't go anywhere. Lots more to come.
Attention business owners, you and your customers are listening to this right now. Face it, every business needs customers, even yours. The Sports Circus is a primetime nationally syndicated program that's carried on ABC, NBC, CNBC, and Westwood One News affiliates, plus CBS, Fox, and NBC sports affiliates across North America, with coverage from Hawaii to New York. Also, the Sports Circus is available to the 180 million subscribers on iHeartRadio, and the Sports Circus gets about 4 million website visitors per month, which could click through your website and bring sales. The Sports Circus provides great content featuring celebrity guests from sports and entertainment to our audience every weekday, which your company could greatly benefit from by increasing your visibility, foot traffic, eyeballs to your website, and calls from potential customers. Call us right now at
714-948-0100. Again, 714-948-0100.
Or email us at info@thesportscircus.com. That's info@thesportscircus.com. Drive your sales today by advertising with the Sports Circus.
Do you know someone with a drug or alcohol problem? Get help right now. Insurance may cover everything. Stop the drug and alcohol nightmare. Are drug and alcohol problems hitting you too close to home? Get help right now. Insurance may cover everything.
800-831-1560. 800-831-1560. 800-831-1560. That's 800-831-1560.
Why pay retail for your next car? Just visit beepinautos.com to find your new-to-you car or truck. They find cars for people, even when cars are hard to find. So just go to beepinautos.com and click on Find Me a Car, and they find your perfect car on the wholesale market. beepinautos.com. They're a car concierge. beepinautos.com. BEEPIN autos.com. beepinautos.com. Now you have a friend in the car business when you need it most. Trusted since 2013. Just click Find Me a Car at beepinautos.com.
That's the sound of sizzling, dry-aged USDA Prime Wagyu and Angus steaks from UppercutChops.com. Their best-in-class filet mignons, New York steaks, and the king of all steaks, the tomahawk and cowboy cut ribeyes, are the best in the business. Even their Prime Wagyu burgers will likely be the best you've ever had. Browse the full selection of steaks and chops at UppercutChops.com from the comfort of your home or on your mobile device. UppercutChops.com delivers all-natural, dry-aged USDA Prime Wagyu and Angus steaks and chops directly to your door, without the hassle of going to the grocery store and fight crowds to pick from a small selection of average at best meats with injected steroids, fillers, and coloring added to look good. Find out what's for dinner at UppercutChops.com or call 714-948-0100. 714-948-0100. 714-948-0100. Or make your selection directly at UppercutChops.com.
Welcome back to the Sports Circus. I'm Roy Firestone. Now it's time to throw it back to Sal.
Thank you, Roy, and welcome back to the Sports Circus. I'm your ringmaster, Sal, live from Las Vegas in the AMTV studio, AAMP Television. Folks, this segment brought to you in part by our friends over at the College of Southern Nevada Athletics. Check them out at csncoyotes.com for upcoming games and events. That's the College of Southern Nevada Athletics, csncoyotes.com for upcoming games and events. Folks, they've been with us since 2016. And a nice round of applause for CSN Coyotes Athletics. Boy, that's good stuff. All right, a big welcome back to everybody listening in on all of our affiliates, including our friends waking up with us over in Atlanta. WDJY 99.1 FM. Thanks for joining us over there at 8 a.m. Right down the road, everybody driving home from work and driving about at 7 p.m. listening in on WAUD. That's 1230 on the AM dial. That's home of the Atlanta Braves. All those up and down the Midwest, thanks for joining us in. That's my hometown as well of Chicago, as well as our friends driving between sunny Southern California and Las Vegas, listening in on Highway Country Radio 101.5 FM and 107.3 FM along Interstate 15 on that long drive between Vegas and LA. This is about a 200-mile signal, folks. I mean, that is a very, very, very long range for an FM signal. That's for darn sure. By the way, that is home of the Vegas Golden Knights, the Raiders, and, of course, the Sports Circus at 7 p.m. And hello to our friends up in Alaska, all the way down to L.A., as I mentioned, over to Honolulu. CBS Sports 1500 KHKA, that's home of the 49ers, Yankees, and the Alabama Crimson Tide. Plus everybody on Cox, Comcast, Spectrum, Frontier, Oceanic, Time Warner, Spectrum, Wild Charter, and independent cable affiliates. Thanks for joining us in select markets, Hotel TV where applicable, and of course, everybody listening in on Pick Your Favorite Streamer as well. If you're just tuning in right now and you missed the top of the show announcement from Vacation Buddies, you're in luck because I'm going to go ahead and repeat it, and you got a shot to pick up a couple of nights right here in Las Vegas, Orlando, Florida, or in Branson, Missouri, if you know the answer to this simple trivia question. Here it is. Which of these three is the tallest structure in Las Vegas? Is it A, the Stratosphere Tower at the Strat, B, the Eiffel Tower at the Paris Hotel and Casino, or C, the Fontainebleau Hotel and Casino? If you know the answer, call 888-576-5777, 888-576-5777, 888-576-5777. Vacation Buddies is not affiliated with this station, but they want to give you a couple of nights right here in Las Vegas, Orlando, Florida, or Branson, Missouri. If you know the answer. If so, call 888-576-5777. Call now. All right, back to these odds. We went over a couple of games already, and we had briefly talked about the Eagles and the Commanders, Eagles at the Commanders, and Washington's getting 7. The Bears are minus 1.5 against Green Bay. And, of course, moving into the AFC East. Now, you may think that the Bills at the Browns have very little meaning. Well, you would think between the two games that is the case. However, it's the Bills that sit a game behind the Patriots, and what they're trying to do is they're trying to catch them. And so you say, well, all right, they sit one game behind, and what have the Bills done this year? Okay, well, what we do know is the Bills just beat the Patriots about a week ago. And then you look up and down the schedule, you say, well, geez, what else did they do? Oh, that's right, it was the Patriots winning at Buffalo. So each team won on the road in the other team's house. So this matters because if the Patriots lose and the Bills win, the Bills have a better home record, but we think about division, and now we go to tiebreakers and we go to conference tiebreakers. So this is really an important game. And in the grand scheme of things, I think the odds are sort of reflecting it because I believe the Bills need to run up the points against an AFC team. And, well, guess what? At the mercy of who? The Cleveland Browns. And so the Bills open up minus 8.5, and it's 10.5 across the board. Oh, wait a minute. The Hard Rock has them at 10. So if you're betting the Bills, you can at least get an even 10 at Hard Rock. Everywhere else is 10.5, being Caesars and MGM properties, etc. So the bigger question is, how many points will the Bills score? And really, you have to ask yourself, what is the weather report? And not because I'm a guy that looks at the weather for games. And the reason I even say it in the first place is because when we look at what the Buffalo Bills do, and this is kind of crazy. It's sort of a strange phenomenon. It almost seems like the Bills don't play that well until the weather gets crappy. And, well, as we see it right now, Ohio is going through blizzard conditions. So will the weather clear for Sunday's game? That's the bigger question. I believe, from what I'm looking at right now, I'm looking at the Doppler radar. It looks to me like it's going to clear up over there. Now, on the other hand, you're also going to see the same thing with the Bears. It should be clear weather. Now, the Washington game, mind you, the Washington hosting Philadelphia game, that looks to be still, I think that all the bad weather is pretty much going to be on the back end. So that may be coming through, or may already have been through there come Saturday afternoon. And maybe when the game is played, maybe they'll be playing, I wouldn't say in dry conditions, but it won't potentially be snowing. But if you look at as it stands today, the weather is really piling up in the, well, let's just put it this way, in the Ohio Valley all the way through Detroit, and they don't play there. But Cleveland is in a snow band right now, and that's why I say it. So is Cincinnati. Actually, they had just left their snow band. So it looks like the conditions ought to be relatively clear by the weekend, and maybe a little bit of snow coming in from the West Coast, and we'll get into that in just a minute here. So the Browns game, it should have some snow on the sidelines. I don't think it's going to be snowing, but the Bills seem to play better when the weather is this way. That's the reason I bring it up. So we'll see what happens now. Can the Bills cover 10? Probably. Can they cover 10.5? Maybe not. We'll see. Because maybe a garbage time touchdown would keep Cleveland in the game. And my best guess is the Browns really ought to sit Sanders, because he's already proven to be remarkably ineffective. And you got to give Dylan Gabriel the ball. That's really what happens here. All right, the Jets are playing indoors down in New Orleans. And the Jets and Saints seems like the who cares game or the nobody cares game. So when you look at the Jets, they're in the toilet at 3-11, and the Saints are at 4-10. So what are they really playing for? The New York Giants have a record of 2-12, and right now they lead the NFC with the worst record. The Cardinals also 3-11, and over in the AFC, it is the Tennessee Titans and the Raiders, both with 2-12 records. So what are these two teams playing for right now? I don't think they're really playing for a whole hell of a lot, maybe a little bit of pride, but the Saints are clearly the better squad, and the Saints got themselves a W last week, so it seems to make sense for the Saints to win this game against the Jets, who really don't have a hell of a lot of offense, and the Saints will probably cover the 6. Actually, it's 5.5 at one of the online venues, but I won't go ahead and plug them because why should I? All right, just mentioned the Giants. The Giants are hosting the Vikings. Now, you say, are the Vikings out of it? Well, as I look at it, the Vikings are 6-8. So let's take a look at the playoff picture right now with these wildcard teams. So Dallas, no. Green Bay, Detroit, yes. They're both ahead of the Panthers. But then again, we have a problem with the NFC West. You have two teams that are going to come out. Actually, 3 teams from the NFC West will make the playoffs this year. So the bigger question is, there might be one slot left open, and who's going to take it? It looks like it's likely going to be either Chicago or Green Bay, whoever doesn't win the division. Detroit looks to be the odd team out. Unless if the Bears can knock the Packers off this week, then, and if the Lions can win, that puts the Lions a half a game behind Green Bay, because you got 9-4-1 versus 8-6. But as far as these other games go, I did mention, of course, the Saints game. I think the Saints get themselves a W there. And let's take a closer look at the Buccaneers at the Panthers. Now, the Bucs open up -3.5. I can't even believe Baker Mayfield's playing. The way his arm went dead about 3 or 4 weeks ago after trying to throw the ball deep, I thought he threw his arm out. I have no idea. But anyway, it looked like he was done for the season. But Tampa is -3 across the board. They open up -3.5. And that's about right. The Panthers, a home team dog, getting 3. And when you look at where the Panthers stand, that's right. They sit directly behind the Buccaneers. And honestly, the only reason they sit behind the Buccaneers in the first place, as we take a look at what has happened this season, well, it seems to me that the Buccaneers have, let's see, did they play? I think they did play the Panthers at some point. Yeah, folks, this is live. This is not a prepped anything. No, because what I'm looking at here, NFL preseason, okay, preseason, regular season. So it looks like the Bucs beat the Falcons. They beat the Texans. They beat the Jets like everybody else. They lost to the Eagles. They beat the Seahawks, believe it or not, in Seattle. They beat the 49ers. I mean, they're beating good teams. They lost to Detroit. They beat the Saints. They lost to the Bucs. They got killed by Buffalo. The Rams destroyed them. They beat the Cardinals. They lost to the Saints. They lost to the Falcons. Well, guess what? The last 2 out of 3 games are against the Panthers. So this is a really important game between those two squads. And I'll tell you what, folks, I'm going to give it to the Panthers. I don't know why. Something smells a little bit stinky at Happyville. Watch for the Panthers +3. Seems like a reasonable pick so far. Back here in a few on the Sports Circus. Don't go anywhere.
If I was your mother and you had a drug problem, I'd grab you by the ear and make you call and get help. You can be in treatment tomorrow and start to get clean in 7 days. Follow Mom's advice and call the Detox and Treatment Helpline now. Write this number down.
800-814-8628. 800-814-8628. 800-814-8628. That's 800-814-8628.
Are you or someone you love struggling with an addiction to drugs or alcohol and want to be set free from the chains of addiction? Then call Addiction Helpline America right now to get the help you need. From drug and alcohol addiction to dual diagnosis treatment, we provide a confidential helpline to help people like you get sober and live happy, substance-free lives.
Treatment helped me get my life back. I was so addicted, the only person I could focus on was myself and what I needed. I hit rock bottom and lost everything. Through treatment, I was able to overcome those demons and focus on my family again.
I used until I overdosed and almost died. That was the end of the road for me. After seeking treatment, I now have hope. I learned skills that help me deal with life on life's terms.
800-426-4994. 800-426-4994. 800-426-4994. That's 800-426-4994.
Why pay retail for your next car? Just visit beepinautos.com to find your new-to-you car or truck. They find cars for people, even when cars are hard to find. So just go to beepinautos.com and click on Find Me a Car, and they find your perfect car on the wholesale market. beepinautos.com. They're a car concierge. beepinautos.com. BEEPIN autos.com. beepinautos.com. Now you have a friend in the car business when you need it most. Trusted since 2013. Just click Find Me a Car at beepinautos.com.
Investors, keep listening to learn how to get your free gold report. A currency crisis is upon us. The U.S. dollar has been the world's reserve currency for over 50 years, but that is changing. It's time to protect your retirement. Decades of reckless borrowing and spending have critically weakened the dollar. The U.S. has become the world's biggest debtor with over $35 trillion in debt. Plus, the dollar's become weaponized. Countries are dumping it. Investors who wait until it's too late could lose big. There is one safe haven: gold. Diversify your portfolio with a physical asset they can't take away. Call the Reagan Gold Group right now and ask for your free gold guide. Here's our number:
800-876-7041. 800-876-7041. 800-876-7041. That's 800-876-7041.
Hey everyone, Dave Jackson here, ESPN rules analyst on ESPN Hockey, and you're listening to the Sports Circus.
Welcome back to the Sports Circus. I'm your ringmaster, Sal, live from Las Vegas in the AMP TV studio, AAMP television. Folks, make sure to check out thesportscircus.com for our upcoming guests, our prior guests, recorded shows, which can be found on Apple, Amazon, Audible, Spotify, Pandora, iHeart, YouTube, Stitcher, Deezer, plus a whole bunch of others. Also, be sure to check out the partners page at thesportscircus.com. Lots of great partners over there, and one of our favorites is Al's Number One, Italian Beef, 1079 West Taylor Street in Chicago's Little Italy. That's Al's Number One, Italian Beef, 1079 West Taylor Street in Chicago's Little Italy. If you can't get over there for some great food, check them out at alsbeef.com. That's alsbeef.com. Read all about the creation of this incredible sandwich 117 years ago. That's right, by the Al's Beef family. And guess what? What did they do? They opened a restaurant in 1938, many years later. And they have been in business for a very, very long time, serving up some of the greatest food that is known in Chicagoland. And I'm not talking about pizza. I'm talking about Italian beef sandwich, which absolutely crushes that awful Philly cheesesteak fried sandwich. Very different animal. Read about it at alsbeef.com. There's an enormous difference, folks. Again, check them out at alsbeef.com if you can't get down to 1079 West Taylor Street in Chicago's Little Italy.
Excellent.
All right. Yes, it is excellent. All right. Welcome back to everybody. TV and radio, you know who you are. We left off talking about odds for the NFL for Week 16. And so, yeah, that Buccaneers and Panthers game is the first of two meetings. Now, they meet in two of the last 3 weeks of the season. And obviously, you're going to find out who wins that NFC South from those games because the other teams are not in contention at this point. All right, I did bring up the Giants hosting the Vikings, and I brought that up briefly because you have two teams that are essentially out of the playoff picture. However, the Giants are playing at home. They're getting 3 points, and actually 2.5 points at Hard Rock. If you're betting the Minnesota Vikings, you only have to lay 2.5 at the Hard Rock, but at Caesars and MGM, you have to lay 3. And there might be some weather issues there. Again, I'm looking at the radar right now, and there is a whole bunch of precipitation going to New Jersey because that's where they play. Of course, they should be called the New Jersey Giants and the New Jersey Jets. But they're not. Oddly, the only team in New York that plays in New York is the Buffalo Bills, in case you're keeping score. All right. So back to that Giants game. Both of these teams aren't playing for anything except pride. And this is J.J. McCarthy's first trip as a starting quarterback to, I wouldn't say the Big Apple, but over to New York, New Jersey. That's what the old New York, New Jersey Generals, or the New Jersey Generals back in the USFL back in the early 1980s. So I would argue that the Giants will probably find a way to win this game straight up because they're not going to end up with the top draft pick anyway because they have more wins than some of the other hapless teams in the league as it stands. All right, moving past there, over to Tennessee. Now, Tennessee, they do play outdoors, and they are hosting, well, again, this is a team where neither team can do anything, and Patrick Mahomes is on the shelf. So we're going to see a backup, and then we're going to see a wannabe quarterback over with Tennessee. And this is a game that essentially the Chiefs' experience will just simply win the game. And that's all it's to it because Tennessee doesn't want to win any more games because they've got the number 1 draft pick coming, of course, from the NFL. The question is which way they're going to go. They're probably going to go, I'm going to guess, with the kid from Notre Dame. The running back, I think that's Love, if I'm not mistaken. He's a good one. Jeremiah Love. He's a very good one. So likely he'll be the number 1 pick that goes to Tennessee if they win the draft. Otherwise, you look at the other teams that are in there, and let's face it, there are some teams that may need a quarterback. And obviously, you've got Mendoza, who won the Heisman Trophy. And yes, I'm a Purdue guy, but I applaud the kid from Indiana. And I do applaud Indiana football because they're doing it right and good for them. But you ask yourself, well, who's going to win this game? Well, honestly, it's going to be Kansas City. Not necessarily because they're trying to get a better pick. They're not going to lose the game because they're trying to get a better pick. They just want to play at least 500 ball in the season, and they can do that still. So Kansas City should win this game, and the line is at 3 across the board. Open up -7. Now it's 3, and it's probably going to end up maybe 3.5. So if you can get it now. Get it at 3. All right, moving on. It's the Superchargers. Open up -1.5 at Dallas. So who's playing for something right now is the question. Well, I would say that it is the Chargers are playing for something right now because the Chargers sit 2 games behind the Denver Broncos, and they've won their last few, but Denver's won their last 11. And so the question is, where do the Chargers finish in this whole playoff scenario in the AFC? We look at right now, they are tied out of the wildcard teams with Buffalo at 10 wins and 4 losses, and then it's everybody else. The Texans are 9-5, a very good Texas team, sit behind a very, very good Jacksonville Jaguars team too. Both of those 2 teams, by the way, on 5-game winning streak, 6-game winning streak, and those teams are playing really well. But outside of that, in the AFC, I mean, you've got the Ravens and Steelers battling it out to see who wins. The Bengals are awful, and the Browns are even worse. And so who else is left? Oh, that's right. Phillip Rivers and the Colts. That's right. I said Phillip Rivers. Yes. We'll give him an applause just for a minute because really all we want to do is laugh. Because most of the guys, most of the linebackers and defensive players that I've had on this show that have played, well, let's just say throughout the 2000s and 2010s, whatever, 2010s, I've always asked them, whenever you get a starting linebacker in there or a defensive lineman or an end or something, I say, who's the one guy you always want to put a hat into? And guess what? Every time I've had somebody on that played that position while he was playing, it was Phillip Rivers. That's right. They all wanted to put a hat into him. He's just a competitor. He's one of those guys. But guess what? The Colts are still alive. So you get 3 teams you think about. All right, either the Bills or Patriots. Let's just call the Bills right now. And then you're probably going to have the Chargers. And then you've got a couple of teams fighting it out for the last spot. The Colts could catch the Texans, believe it or not. And that's really what the race is going to look like right there. If the Colts can catch the Texans, then that would be the last playoff spot. So the game matters between Dallas and the Chargers. The Chargers need the game. Somehow the Dallas, I don't even know how this works. How the hell is Dallas favored over anybody? I'll never know. They're actually 2.5 at MGM. They're 2 at Caesars and 2 at Hard Rock. For me, I tell you what, I'll take the Chargers all day and twice on Sunday. Because honestly, I can't see for the life of me how the Chargers lose that game. To me, it just makes no sense. How could they? And that's really what you got to look at. The Chargers desperately need this win. The Cowboys are done. So this one is the Chargers. Okay, then we have the Bengals. But you can call them the Bungles. The Bungles somehow are a 4-point favorite over the Dolphins. Apparently the Dolphins are benching Tua, which makes 0 sense whatsoever. But it's the Bengals 4 over the Dolphins at Miami. I guess they're thinking Joe Burrow's going to have a big game because maybe Joe Burrow is interviewing for a job. Maybe this is his showcase for a job. I don't think Joe Burrow's going to be in Cincinnati. I think he's going to go. He's tired of it. And I believe that's going to be the end of it. Joe Burrow moves on. Who knows if he can stay healthy, but maybe he's going to find a new home down in Miami. Because remember, what do they have? They have Tyreek Hill. Now, Tyreek has been out all season. But if he goes down there, don't be surprised if one of the big receivers go down there from Cincinnati. I don't necessarily think it's going to be Jamar Chase, but you could see T. Higgins go down there. That's right. And so a lot of crazy things can happen in the NFL, but I'm thinking Joe Burrow is interviewing for a job right now. That makes a little bit of sense. The Falcons and the Cardinals, the nobody cares game, that game's in Arizona. The Cardinals are getting 3. I'm taking the Cardinals. They are a very entertaining team. And we know Atlanta can run the ball with Robinson, no question. They've got a quarterback problem. They've had a quarterback problem since they drafted Penix, who in my opinion is an absolute bust, just like Justin Fields. Same thing. You got a similar situation with quarterbacks that are, in my opinion, just terrible. I'm looking at the Cardinals in that one. And as a matter of fact, we got time for one more, and this is a showcase. It's a playoff preview with Jacksonville traveling to Denver. Now, again, we look at the proverbial weather situation. Now, there is a storm approaching on the West Coast right now. So it could be a snowy field, and they could be playing in the blizzard in Denver at Mile High against the Jags. And, well, last I checked, it was the Jags are playing great ball along with Denver, but you've got a cold weather team versus a team from Florida. We know what happens in those games. But Denver opens up -5.5, and the line is down to 3. 3. That's not bad. However, if you're betting the Jags, you're getting +3.5 at Caesars. You get the extra hook there. So if it's a field goal win by Denver, you still win by the half a point. That line at 3.5, boy, that's a tough game. I mean, that could be one of those 20-17 kind of games. I don't know. That'll be a fun one to watch. I wouldn't even bet it. Just grab a big bowl of popcorn, watch the game, have some fun. And that is a playoff preview. And you heard it here right here on the Sports Circus. Back in a few minutes, folks. Don't go anywhere.
That's the sound of sizzling, dry-aged USDA Prime Wagyu and Angus steaks from UpperCutChops.com. Their best-in-class filet mignons, New York steaks, and the king of all steaks, the tomahawk and cowboy cut ribeyes are the best in the business. Even their Prime Wagyu burgers will likely be the best you've ever had. Browse the full selection of steaks and chops at UpperCutChops.com from the comfort of your home or on your mobile device. UpperCutChops.com delivers all-natural, dry-aged USDA Prime Wagyu and Angus steaks and chops directly to your door, without the hassle of going to the grocery store and fight crowds to pick from a small selection of average at best meats with injected steroids, fillers, and coloring added to look good. Find out what's for dinner at UpperCutChops.com or call 714-948-0100. 714-948-0100. 714-948-0100. Or make your selection directly at UpperCutChops.com.
Do you own a timeshare? Well, face the facts. You made a mistake. You made a bad purchase. A timeshare is not an investment. It's a money pit that continues forever. If you use your timeshare, that's great. But if you don't and you want to legally get out of your contract, call my friends right now at the Timeshare Exit Hotline. They're an experienced team of lawyers who help good people like you get out of a timeshare contract that they just don't want. Don't throw away your money on maintenance fees. Use it for things you really want. We can help you end your timeshare contract and stop the money drain immediately. If you're ready to move on with your timeshare, call our team right now.
Cancel your timeshare now with a free call. 800-298-3173. 800-298-3173. 800-298-3173. That's 800-298-3173.
Owning great property is almost impossible these days. At least, that's what people keep saying. They don't know about National Premier Properties. Do you have $350 or a credit card? You can own a great piece of property in a resort community. National Premier Properties has over 51 years of experience helping people just like you purchase amazing properties across the U.S. and in Mexico, Canada, the Bahamas. It takes less than 5 minutes to turn your dream into reality. Visit nationalpremierproperties.com and make it happen now.
Why pay retail for your next car? Just visit beepinautos.com to find your new-to-you car or truck. They find cars for people, even when cars are hard to find. So just go to beepinautos.com and click on Find Me a Car, and they find your perfect car on the wholesale market. Beepinautos.com. They're a car concierge. Beepinautos.com. BEEPIN autos.com. Beepinautos.com. Now you have a friend in the car business when you need it most. Trusted since 2013. Just click Find Me a Car at beepinautos.com.
Hey everybody, this is Brian Urlacher. Welcome back to the Sports Circus.
Welcome back to the Sports Circus. I'm your ringmaster Sal, live from Las Vegas in the AMP-TV studio, AAMP Television. Folks, make sure you check out the store at thesportscircus.com as well. Listen, lots of great gift ideas over there. Check out hats, hoodies, t-shirts, coats, sweatpants, ball caps, beanie caps, and mouse pads, and travel mugs and coffee mugs and all kinds of cool stuff with the Sports Circus logo embroidered or silked on them. It just depends on what the product is. And they are American-made products. Again, that's the store at thesportscircus.com. A shameless plug for the circus. All right. Welcome back to everybody on radio and TV. You know who you are. Everybody's streaming as well. All those also on Chicago Food Favorites. Check out Chicago Food Favorites on Facebook. Talk about your favorite foods, your favorite restaurants, your favorite recipes. Make some friends, have some fun. Chicago Food Favorites on Facebook. All right. Now back with these NFL odds here. Left off with the Broncos hosting the Jags. Boy, that's probably the game of the week after, of course, the Green Bay Packers travel to the Chicago Bears. We'll see what happens there. All right, moving on. It's the Steelers traveling to Detroit in an absolute must-win game for Detroit. And the Steelers look to stay a little bit ahead of the Baltimore Ravens. So an important game for Pittsburgh, but literally a lose and stay home game for the Detroit Lions. Detroit opened up -6. They're -7 across the board. That seems like a pretty good number. But it's Aaron Rodgers going into Detroit where he's had a whole hell of a lot of success. And I have to say that somehow Pittsburgh, they'll find a way to keep this one close. Detroit will probably win in the very end. I would take the Steelers +7. The awful Raiders travel to the streaking Houston Texans. And there's so much controversy right now around the Raiders. Who the hell knows who's going to coach that team next year? I still think it's going to be Pete Carroll. Pete's a good coach. Line opens up Texans -4.5. The line is -14.5 at MGM. It's only 14 at Caesars and Hard Rock. So if you're interested in laying a couple of touchdowns, well, let's face it. The Raiders are a pretty bad team right now. They've got a running back. They've got 2 other players. That's it. They have a quarterback problem. They have not played Aiden O'Connell. They should have committed to him. Now they're going to be out hunting for another quarterback. So who knows? Maybe Mendoza may go to the Raiders. And yet another attempt for the Raiders to get themselves a quarterback. Who the hell knows? Anyway, this is likely what's going to happen. The Texans should win this game going away. It's played down at Energy Stadium in Houston. And there's no reason the Raiders shouldn't even compete in this game. But you know what? That's all the more reason to take the Raiders +14.5 at MGM. If I was a betting guy, me personally, I'd be willing to take the 14.5 just because when everything points to one team, that's how Vegas makes lots and lots and lots of money. Okay, moving on. It's the Ravens hosting the Patriots, which could be in a potential blizzard. Now, the Ravens open up -8.5 against the Patriots. That's right, -8.5. And it's down to 3 at MGM and Caesars and 2.5 at the Hard Rock. So if you're taking the Ravens, if you bet it at the Hard Rock, you get that extra half a point. So a field goal wins the game. How the hell is Drake May going to lose this game? I have no idea. The Patriots should win this game. They are the better of the two teams. And despite Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry and Likely and Zay Flowers and the rest of their offensive talent, the Ravens are not the same defensive squad. The Ravens have a real problem, and they're facing a very, very good offense. That said, I don't see how the Patriots don't cover 3 from Caesars Palace. They're +3 at Caesars and at MGM. That's the way I'm going. And, of course, then you have Monday night. It is Phillip Rivers and the Colts. +3 at the open, and they're +6 at MGM and +5.5 at Caesars and Hard Rock against the 49ers. This is an absolute must-win for the Colts. The 49ers are in a playoff spot, essentially, but the 49ers have a chance to do something big if they get the win. Now, the 49ers host the Bears next week, so they would get, if technically they end up tied with the Bears, they would have the tiebreaker over the Bears. And so, boy, the Bears have a tough last 3 games. They're home against Green Bay, at San Francisco, then home against Detroit. But this is a very important game for San Francisco as well. Brock Purdy's playing very well, but this is one of those games where somehow Phillip Rivers might get lucky, and he had been sitting out for a while, and guess what? Well, the guy's got a shot. +6 at MGM. Oh, and by the way, if you were betting on the Seahawks and Rams game, funny that game ended with a 2-point conversion, but either way, it was Seattle -1.5 in the betting world, and they did not cover against the Rams. All right, so those are the odds for the games. There's some really good games going on, and we've already covered the standings. Let's do this. Let's take a quick look at the Super Bowl odds, because that's something that a lot of people are interested in right now, even myself. And I look at this. Look, I don't think in my mind that the Bears are going to win the Super Bowl. However, the odds are 28-1. You never know. You got a team that could get lucky. They play opportunistic football, very opportunistic football. And teams like this have won a Super Bowl in the past. And so you ask, do they have a legitimate shot? Yes, they do. The Chargers are sitting at 25-1. Actually, the Bears are, 28. The Chargers are at 26-1 at Caesars. That's a big, big number for a team with a lot of weapons. And they play disciplined football. The only problem is we never know which Chargers team is going to show up. But 26-1, that's a pretty good number. Now, the Ravens should be a higher number than their 22-1 to win the Super Bowl. The Ravens should be more like 30-1 because they just don't play any defense at all. How about the 49ers at 20-1? That's an enormous price for a solid team that's healthy. 20-1. That's right. The Jaguars also at 20-1, but they've got a tougher road over in the AFC with the Broncos. That's the bigger problem. Now, they already got rid of one of the teams because nobody has to face the Kansas City Chiefs, but it's the Broncos and the Bills that likely one of those two are going to represent. And don't forget, you got a hard-charging Houston Texans team. But the Jags are a pretty good price at 20-1. Patriots, speaking of another team with a shot, they're at 13-1 to win the Super Bowl. Pretty good odds. I think they're probably a couple of years away. Green Bay is sitting at 15-1 at Caesars. Big number, but again, they just lost Micah Parsons, and that will hurt them in the long run. They're out. How about the reigning champions? The Eagles are sitting at 11-1 at MGM. 11-1 for the defending champions? That's a big number. The Houston Texans are sitting at 13-1 at Caesars. 13-1. These are good prices. Folks, you could actually bet 5 or 6 of these, and I'll go over that in just a second here. The Bills are at 8-1. The Broncos are at 8.5-1 at MGM. The Seahawks are at 5-1, and the Rams are at 4.75-1, plus 475. Why does all this stuff matter? Look, technically you could bet 4 teams, 4 of these teams, and you can add 4 teams. Maybe 2 favorites, 2 long shots, something like that, and you'll guarantee yourself, if any of those 4 teams win, you'll guarantee yourself a small profit. Now, that's not bad. So if you're thinking one of the teams outside of the Rams or Seahawks are going to win, you could actually bet, according to this, the lowest price is 8-1, being the Buffalo Bills, if that's the case. Now, you could bet 8 different teams at the same price, and hopefully one of the longer shots win. So you have to play the percentages with this, folks. I mean, let's face it. You could pick a couple of favorites and a couple of long shots. Let's just say you pick the Rams and Seahawks, which are essentially plus 475. So if that's the case, you have 400 to work with, right? So you get 475 for 100. So if either of those teams win, you're at 475. You can add a couple of longer shots in there. Maybe you add the Eagles in at 11-1. Maybe you add, the 49ers in at 20-1. Something to that effect. And now what you've done is, I wouldn't say you've guaranteed yourself a profit, but the likelihood is very likely. Even the Denver Broncos are sitting at 8.5-1. I think the Broncos are still about a player away. I don't think they're ready to win a Super Bowl just yet. So I would argue that the Eagles are probably a better pick And the 49ers are probably a better pick. You have some veteran teams in there with a lot of veteran experience. But, when you look at these betting odds, folks, if you don't bet them early, then you're at the mercy of the public opinion of the bettors themselves, because the money movement is going to change these lines. So you have to book it early, as the odds makers had it in the first place. Otherwise, if you wait, for example, on the week-by-week games, if you wait till late in the week, then you end up with the public's influence over the betting market. And the true line is the opening line. So unless you know how to follow the money, that's what I do. I know how to follow the money. I find myself in the sports books. I'm looking for the whales. I know exactly what I'm looking for. I'm watching the movement by certain people, because they'll come in, they'll drop $150,000, $200,000, $500,000 on a game, even $1 million on a game. And I know how to spot them as well. But the most important part of it is that those are the guys that are moving the line. So you have to figure out which way the money is going and why it's going that direction. That's all I'm going to tell you. It's taken me most of my adult lifetime, we'll just say, better yet, from age, we'll call it 12, all the way to today, that I've been following the money, and I've learned the betting world as a kid. I mean, geez, I'm reading the racing form at 10 years of age. My dad didn't take me camping. He took me to the track. And so I learned the gambling world at a very young age, rather than going camping like a lot of my friends and fellow classmates in school and this, that, and the other. But it's all about understanding which way the money is moving the action. And so if you're understanding that, then what you'll be able to see is which way the bettors are betting, because just because the line is a certain number, it doesn't necessarily mean that's what's going to happen. All it means is that popular opinion has driven the odds one way or another. That doesn't mean anything, because remember, the true line is what? It's what the sports books, the odds makers, had laid out in the first place. All right, that's going to do it for the circus today. I'm your ringmaster, Sal. We'll see you in 23 hours right here on your favorite station. Until then, so long, everyone.
Owning great property is almost impossible these days. At least, that's what people keep saying. They don't know about National Premier Properties. Do you have $350 or a credit card? You can own a great piece of property in a resort community. National Premier Properties has over 51 years of experience helping people just like you purchase amazing properties across the U.S. and in Mexico, Canada, the Bahamas. It takes less than 5 minutes to turn your dream into reality. Visit nationalpremierproperties.com and make it happen now.
Why pay retail for your next car? Just visit beepinautos.com to find your new-to-you car or truck. They find cars for people, even when cars are hard to find. So just go to beepinautos.com and click on Find Me a Car, and they find your perfect car on the wholesale market. Beepinautos.com. They're a car concierge. Beepinautos.com. BEEPIN autos.com. Beepinautos.com. Now you have a friend in the car business when you need it most. Trusted since 2013. Just click Find Me a Car at beepinautos.com.